Shalom. This is Hadassah Basaiwan returning with the book of Revelation, chapter 19, and this is part 5. And we're still looking at the war in Armageddon, according to the book of Zakarayah, chapter 14. Now, originally, there was supposed to be a very short study, maybe 2 studies for this book of Zechariah, but it has expanded. And the reason why it is expanded is because what I am doing, I am weaving in the prophecies together. We have the prophecy of Yahweh, which is the book of Joel, chapter 3. We have Revelation, chapter 19, which we have completed, but these studies are all connected to Revelation, chapter 19. And now we have Zechariah, chapter 14. Now, the reason why I am taking the time to do this is because the prophecy about the war in Armageddon is not straightforward. It is not written down as a complete chapter. It is a prophecy that is found in various locations. Revelation 19, Yahweh chapter 3, which is the book of Joel chapter 3, and now Zechariah chapter 14. And what we need to do is piece these prophecies together so that we can see the full picture. We can see the complete picture. Now, whether or not this war was given to us in the past in detail, and then it was destroyed or hidden or what have you, we don't know. And it really doesn't matter because we have enough information in the different prophetic books to be able to piece it together to see the big picture. All right? And we have enough information about the end times event in order to weave them all together. Plus, we have Ruach HaKadosh, who is Ruach Olamath, who is the Spirit of Truth that was given to us for this particular reason. Because Hamashiach knew that these devils are going to try to destroy or distort what they cannot destroy, our book. So it doesn't matter what they have done. It doesn't matter. So we have to take the time to get the pieces of the puzzle and fit them together, not force them, right? Like some people do. Chop a little piece off so you can fit right in. No, what we're gonna do is we're gonna get the pieces to the puzzle of the end times, the war in Armageddon, and put it together so that we can have a beautifully woven, complete picture of what this event is going to look like. All right, when Hamashiach returns with his saints, the southern kingdom, when he lands on the Mount of Olives, how he's going to do all of that. All of that. We need to understand this is what's going to happen. And why do we need to understand this? Why do we need to know this? Because it helps us to make a very important decision for our lives. Whether we want to be a part of his kingdom or remain where we are. Remain in the darkness. Because if we're not walking the straight and narrow path, we're not going to care about all of this. But if you are walking the straight and narrow path, you're going to care. You're going to want to know. And you're going to rejoice. And it's going to help you to stay the course, to keep pressing in and pressing on. So this is the reason why Allah Hayam wants us to know what is coming. Even though we're going to be a part of it, he wants us to see the full story from here all the way down to the very end, the glorious ending. Because it helps us to secure in our minds we've made a right choice by serving Allah. And we've seen in the previous chapters what's going to happen to the rebels of our people and what's going to happen to the rebels of the Gentile nations. We don't want to be a part of that, do we? No, we want to be on the winning side, which is Allah Yahweh. So we got to do what we need to do to stay on his side, to be on his side first of all, and then stay there. Got a decision to make, folks. Who will you serve? Who is it that you're serving, and who do you want to serve? Are you going to serve the devils, or are you going to serve Allah? The devils are coming down. He's going to take them down. And I've shown you this. And if you side with them, you're coming down too. It doesn't matter who you think you are. Doesn't matter your blood type. Doesn't matter if you are the offspring of Abraham, Zakarayah, or Jacob. Doesn't matter to him. You're coming down if you don't serve him. All right, so let's get started. And what we're going to do a little bit of a reflection here from the previous study. Before we get started with the rest of the verses in Zakarayah, let us reflect on an event that will take place when Hamashiach returns to the earth with his saints. Truthfully, as you will see in the remaining of the verses of Zakarayah chapter 14, the events seem to be moved back and forth. And the same goes with the sequence of the events of the end times. They seem to be placed in odd places in their sequence. So the sequence of the end times are not flowing in their sequential order. You're going to, if you've stayed with me this long, if you've been watching the studies that I've done, the videos that I've done, you will see that even in the book of Matthew chapter 24, Mark chapter 13, and Luke chapter 17 and chapter 21, you're going to see that the sequence of events, they're moved all over the place. That's why people think that Jerusalem is going to be surrounded by armies and be ravished again. Not going to happen. Not going to happen. Yes, we're going to have some armies riding into our land, but to be destroyed by Hamashiach and Allah Yahweh. But Yerushalayim will be safe. It's going to be a city without a wall, without walls. Because the fire of Allah is going to surround Yerushalayim. No more Gentiles riding in there. All right. So things seem to be placed in odd positions. And I'm going to show you a couple of them. All right. Or maybe at least one of them. All right. And that's why I am reflecting on the last study to do at least this introduction before we get back into the other verses of Zakarayah. However, if we know what the end times events will look like as a whole, then the little pieces of this prophetic puzzle should not be difficult to put in their respective places. So let us take, for example, the following verses. So we have the two verses, verse 6 and verse 7 of Zakarayah chapter 14. And we saw this in the previous study. And it shall come to pass in that day that the light shall not be clear, nor dark, but it shall be one day, which shall be shown to Yahweh, not day nor night, but it shall come to pass that at evening time it shall be light. We looked at that in the previous study. Now I want to go back and look at it again. Why? Because the placement of this verse is so bizarre if you understand the sequence of events that will be taking place. All right. These two verses that we looked at in the previous study, part 4, were placed in a peculiar position after Hamashiach steps down on the Mount of Olives. That's what I'm talking about. Because these two verses, they're pointing us to an event that will be happening on the earth before he steps down on the Mount of Olives. But let's read on. We know two things about the light that will be on the earth. The perpetual day will occur because the sun will no longer traverse across the sky. It will remain stable, constant in the sky. There'll be no more night, just day. And Al-Hayam is going to use the sun as a way to torment the evil worshippers on the earth. Okay. So this will begin at the sixth trumpet judgment. So there's no more time, because we can tell the time based on the sun rising and the sun setting. All right. Al-Hayam has given us the sun to tell the time. And the moon is to help Yashra'al to know the feast days. Anyways. Okay. Knowing this, that there's no more time since the sixth trumpet judgment, it is just now a perpetual day that is occurring. So the 7 vials, the last trumpet judgment, which is going to occur just as the northern kingdom enters into our land, the land of Yashra'al, and then the 7 vials. The 7 vials will be one event after another in this perpetual day. Now, the second thing that we know is when Hamashiach returns to the earth, the sun, the moon, and the stars will all go dark. That's why I said these two verses, verse 6 and 7 of Zakarayah 14, that has been placed after he steps down on Mount of Olives, is not in the correct position. However, it's there. It's there. And that's why we can't get ourselves tangled up when it comes to the sequence of events. As long as you know the main events, these other parts of the puzzle need to fit in with what we already know. So we know these two verses will be occurring before he comes to the earth. Hamashiach returns to the earth with his saints. All right? So as long as you have that straight in your minds, then it doesn't matter where the devils put it in the prophecy, in the book. All right? They mess with our books. So we know when the second thing, let me read over this. The second thing that we know is when Hamashiach returns to the earth, the sun, the moon, and the stars will all go dark because he is coming in his light, his great glory that will light up the entire earth forever. So that's how we know that he is not coming in the perpetual day. He's coming when that perpetual day, not that it ends, but the sun, the moon, and the stars that brought the light upon the earth ends. Because there's no more time. So I call it a perpetual day, because what else are you going to call it? So this perpetual day is not coming to an end per se, But the light, the sun, the moon, and the stars, their purpose to shine upon the earth is finished, is completed. And we saw that in Yawa'al chapter 3. All right? It comes to an end. Why? Because now the true light, the glory of Allah Hayam will enter into our dimension, enter into the world, and be the light on the earth forever. All right? The sun has fulfilled his purpose. The moon has fulfilled her purpose, and so have the stars. So they're finished. There'll be no more darkness upon the earth, no more nighttime, nothing after, well, actually, even before this, by the sixth trumpet. There's no more nighttime. All right. So now we have that next event on our minds. We know it. Because we know these two phenomenons in respect to the particular end times events, we have to see that the two verses above are confirmation of the perpetual day spoken of by Yawakanan, although they are out of order in the sequence of the end times events. So we get the information and we say, aha, this is confirmation that the sun has stopped traversing. There's no more time because now the earth is seeing the sun is not moving, and all the inhabitants on the earth will now be living in a perpetual day. All right? The northern kingdom, they're living in our land. They're living in glory. The southern kingdom, they're still in third heaven. They're living in glory. It is the other parts of the earth that will experience the discomfort of living in a perpetual day, along with the judgments, because they need to sleep. They need to sleep. And what nighttime is for? To help you to sleep. But thankfully, it's going to be short-lived for the righteous remnant of the Gentile nations. It's going to be short-lived. But this too is going to shake them up a little bit to see what rises up to the surface, if they're going to hang in there and still worship Allah Hayam. All right? The discomfort is going to be short-lived. So we know that Zakarayah chapter 14, verse 6 and 7, placed after Hamashiach steps down on the earth, is out of the sequence, out of the order of the sequence of the events of the end times. But it doesn't matter. We see it as confirmation. That's what it is. Confirmation about this perpetual day. That's why in verse 7 it says here, and I have it on the line, but it shall be one day which shall be known to Yahweh, not day nor night, but it shall come to pass that at evening time it shall be light. So no matter if it's supposed to be nighttime, it's light, because there's no more darkness on the earth. It's one day, a perpetual day, in other words. Okay, let's read on. Regardless of why they are out of order, because we know the sequence of the end times events, the reason why they are out of order is irrelevant. It doesn't really affect us. You know who it would affect? Those that don't have Ruach HaKodesh guiding them and teaching them. Those that are trying to figure these things out in their own strength. Yes, it's a problem for them. The prophecy of Yawa'al, which is Joel chapter 3, verse 15, allows us to see the actual moment when Hamashiach will return with his saints to the earth, confirming what is stated above. All right. So let's state it above, meaning in the written verse, in the written paragraph above. All right. Not the verses in Zechariah 14. Okay. So Yawa'al chapter 3, verse 14. Multitudes, multitudes in the valley of decision, for the day of Yahweh is near in the valley of decision. His day of judgment is near. The sun and the moon shall be darkened, and the stars shall withdraw their shining. That means they go black. They're turned off. You have a light on, you switch. You touch the switch, and the light goes off. And you have darkness. That's what will happen to the sun, the moon, and the stars. Verse 16, Yahweh also shall roar out of Zion and utter his voice from Jerusalem, and the heavens and the earth shall shake. So verse 16 now is speaking about Hamashiach when he is already on Mount Zion. He has already converted the Mount of Olives into Mount Zion, and his tabernacle is already established here. So when you look at these three verses here in Yawa'al, verse 14 is one event. Verse 15 is another event. And then verse 16 is another event. All right, these are three events that are going to take place in the end times. So verse 14 is telling you about the multitudes, the armies of the wicked, the kings and the false prophet, all coming to the valley of decision because they're drawn there by Yahweh for his judgment. That's why he said it is near. So they are being drawn to the valley of decision. Then verse 15 is another event that is going to take place. They will be in the land. And while they're in the land, they're not coming anywhere near Jerusalem, but they're going to be near Jerusalem. Allah is going to cause the sun, the moon, and the stars to go dark. Why? Because at this point of time, Hamashiach is returning to the earth the second time with his saints. And he is going to land on the Mount of Olives. All right? He's going to step down on the Mount of Olives along with his saints. And it will be at this point of time that he's going to cleave the Mount of Olives in half. But we've discussed this before. So now we have the next event, which is verse 16, when he is going to roar out of Zion and utter his voice from Jerusalem, which is the city. Why? Because now he's getting ready to ride out to the war in Armageddon. So you see the three events there. But let's read on. But Yahweh shall be the hope of his people and the strength of Habanai ol Yashrael, the 12 tribes of Yashrael. So we see there are three events in these two verses. That's why we have to know the events. If you don't know them, you're going to be all over the place, flipping and flopping all over the place. And this is what the devils want us to do. Flipping and flopping, slipping and sliding, and not knowing the truth. Okay, between verse 15 and verse 16 of Yoel chapter 3, there's a gap that is filled by the prophecy of Zakarayah, and that is Hamashiach stepping down on the Mount of Olives, cleaving it, spreading it, raising up the land to make a new mountain called Zion. Then Elohim Yahweh will plant his tabernacle there. Hamashiach will enter through the east gate, sound his trumpet to bring together the 12 tribes of Yashrael inside his temple. The Feast of Trumpets is fulfilled at this moment because he used the trumpet He sounded his trumpet to gather his 12 tribes together. He already has the southern kingdom with him, so now he is calling up the northern kingdom into his temple to gather with him. Let's read on. There he will make an offering on behalf of his 12 tribes, an act of reconciliation between the two kingdoms to make them one. Reconciliation between him and them, because now they're betrothed to him. All right? And between them and Alahayam Yahweh, now we are becoming the priests and ministers unto Yahweh. The Day of Atonement is fulfilled. Many people think that the Day of Atonement, well, we know according to our forefathers, and when we look at what Alahayam told Masha about the Day of Atonement, is it supposed to be a day of affliction? We're afflicting our souls, right? And so the wicked ones in our land, they use this day to fast and to stay away from their wives and do this and do that, even though you're not all Shabbat, you're supposed to stay away from your wife anyway, right? Don't bathe, don't do this, don't do that. These are all the things that these wicked people do, right? Imagine not bathing on a Shabbat. You need to wash your skin, son. Right? Anyways, but the word atonement here is about reconciliation. And the only person that can reconcile us to the Father is Hamashiach. But before he reconciles us to the Father, we first have to be reconciled together to be one kingdom, to be the 12 tribes of Yashwa'al again. And we're going to see this. I'm not sure if in this particular study, but definitely if not this study, the next study, we're going to see how this is going to play out. All right? And I'm going to show you scriptures. I believe it's in Ezekiel about the prince. All right. So these two feast days that have not been fulfilled up to now, up to date, as I'm speaking, will be fulfilled. The last feast day, which will be the feast of tabernacles, will be fulfilled after that last war is completed and everything is renewed. All right? But this is the reason why, and I'm getting ahead of myself, the Feast of Tabernacles will be the last feast that will be celebrated for the 1,000 years while Hamashiach is with us as king on the earth. The 1,000-year reign of Hamashiach, the Feast of Tabernacles, will be the last feast that will be celebrated. Okay, but I'm getting ahead of myself, as usual. Okay? So, right now, when Hamashiach comes to the earth, although we don't see it in Yahwa'al, but it is noted in Zakarayah. All right? So Zakarayah fits nicely between verses 15 and 16 of Yahwa'al chapter 3. Gives you the details of what is going to occur when he comes through the eastern gate in the heavens. All right? These events must all take place before Hamashiach leaves the tabernacle by the way of the east gate. That's another thing that we have to understand. He's not just coming down to split a mountain, to raise it up, and then to set up his tabernacle. He is going to reconcile his 12 tribes, the two kingdoms, the southern kingdom and the northern kingdom, because we will be riding out with him to the war in Magadan. I know when you look at Revelation chapter 19, it sounds as if Hamashiach is coming in with his saints and heading to the war of Armageddon. That's what it sounds like, right? That him and the 2.5 tribes, which will be the southern kingdom, will be with him and only with him. There's no mention of the northern kingdom, of course. But if you read it without looking at the other prophecies, like these ones that I have pieced together, this is what it looks like. That's why I'm saying you need Ruach HaKodesh to really help us. We need him to help us to put these pieces together. I am sure the events were written out in detail in their proper order, right? I'm sure there were. But we don't have that. Okay. So if you look at Revelation chapter 19, that's the idea that comes to mind when you read it without looking at these other additional prophecies. All right. So he's coming first to reconcile, to transform the Mount of Olives into Mount Sion, establish his tabernacle, reconcile the 12 tribes together to be one in his hand. Remember, Ezekiel talks about that. I believe this is Ezekiel chapter 37. He reconciles the two kingdoms and made them one in his hand. Then he reconciles them to himself because we become his priest, his bride, right? We're now betrothed to him officially now, because the marriage will take place later on once everything is renewed. And then he is going to reconcile us to the Father, because now we have a high priest forever, Malachi Sadak, and now we are the priest and the royal priesthood and his ministers. So now we have our purpose, our place, and it's all established inside the tabernacle. We know who we are. Now we're ready to ride out with Hamashiach as 12 tribes. Him being the priest, the high priest forever, and we being his priests, all on white horses to come against the wicked ones in Armageddon. So let me read out last two lines again. These events must all take place before Hamashiach leaves the tabernacle by way of the east gate. But this time with his 12 tribes riding with him on white horses toward the valley of decision. So he enters in the east gate. The east gate, we come through the east gate with him. The northern kingdom comes through the east gate to meet up with him, because he sounds his trumpet. And there's a offering taking place, and he officiates over this offering, because now he is merging the two kingdoms together to make them one, and he has to do it this way. We're going to see that, don't worry. What we need to see here between the two prophecies from two different prophets are the sequence of events that were purposefully hidden from us, but they are beautifully interwoven with each other. We just need Ruach HaKodesh to show us how to connect these prophetic puzzle pieces together to get the big and complete picture. The wicked armies will begin their ride to our land, Yasha'al, heading to the Valley of Decision, although they will not be aware that they are being led there in the perpetual day. So all this is going to occur in the perpetual day. They're going to arrive in our land in the perpetual day too. But when Hamashiach comes with his saints, the luminaries will be no more, meaning that the sun, the moon, and the stars will go dark. They will just finish. But his glory will light up the earth starting from the east. That's where he's coming from. He's entering into the earthly dimension through the eastern gate, the eastern portal in the heaven. And his light will precede him, and it will come with him, his glory. From that time onward and forever. So once his glory enters into this earth, into our dimension here on the earth, it will light up the world forever. Because this is coming on to the end. But before it comes to an end, he's going to reign for 1,000 years to give now the Gentiles a chance to get their act together. It's going to give us, the 12 tribes of Yashrael, a chance to multiply and become fruitful. All right? Because we have to multiply. We're going to see that later on. In fact, I've already spoken about this. But the 1,000 years is really to help us, the 12 tribes of Yashrael, to populate the earth. Okay. I'm going to speak more about this in the coming lessons. This recap of the prophecy of Yahweh and the prophecy of Zakarayah is to help us to know one thing. That we cannot take the prophecies at face value. Meaning we can't just read it and think, hey, I understand this, and follow along in the sequence of events. No, you cannot do that. That's why many people are led astray when it comes to understanding about, for example, and I keep saying this, the Exodus. Because if you read the account of the first Exodus and you read the other prophecies and you know that, okay, yes, there's going to be another Exodus. There's going to be a regathering of the people of the book. But if you don't read and put the puzzle pieces together, you're going to think that all 12 tribes are going into the wilderness. Because some people believe as it was in the beginning, so it will be again. There's some people even teaching that a mixed multitude is coming out again with us. As if Allah Hayam want that headache all over again. He doesn't want that. That's why he's given us all these opportunities. And he's given us Ruach HaKodesh to help us to understand his plans and his purpose. To help us understand his word. To help us understand the prophecies. To help us understand the truth. We have decisions to make. And at the end of it all, when he makes his judgment, starting with the southern kingdom first, and we are not in order, we're not serving him, we're not doing the things that he wants us to do, then that's it. It's done. He's not dealing with the rebels like he did with our forefathers. He's never ever going to do that again. And that's why I'm saying, if we read the scriptures as they are, then you're going to be led astray. And that was intentional. That was intentional. And that's why there's so many different doctrines out there. So many different opinions of people out there. Because they read the prophecies like a story. and they follow the events as they are given within that chapter when they're all kind of moved around. And you need to put them back in their correct order, just like the book of Revelation. Many of the chapters in that book has been moved out of place. And even within the chapters, the events are moved out of place. And that's why I took the time to, it is a big job to put it back together in its correct order. Whether people want to believe that, that's their problem. All right? But I put it in its correct order. And now it reads a different story. Okay. So we cannot read an account. It's not like that for all of the prophecies. But generally, we have to read and we have to allow Ruach HaKodesh to allow us to know, okay, this is not fitting with with the verse before this. All right? Let's keep reading and see, and I'll show you. Okay, now put this aside. Let's go to this other prophecy. And then all of a sudden, a picture starts to unfold, unravel. Why? Because you're fitting pieces together. And you're not just reading like you're reading a fairy tale story. Once upon a time and then it ends happily ever after. No, it's not like that with our prophecies. Okay. The manner in which these verses are scattered throughout, even within their chapters, can lead one astray from the truth. But this is intentional because the devils do not want us to know the truth. Right? Because if you don't know the truth, truth is light. It chases away the darkness, and the devil doesn't want that. So as long as you are in the dark, he can have a field day with you. Now we can proceed with the rest of Zakarayah to see how the remaining verses of this chapter, which will teach us the truth about the return of Malakana and his saints. When we look at the prophecy of the end times, there's so much information to glean from the prophecies. But thankfully, we have Harawak Olamath that help us to keep it all in context. I am grateful for Rawak HaKodesh, because without him, we would have been all dead, wiped off the face of this earth, including the 12 tribes of Yashraal. We would be wiped off. So I'm grateful to have him. So let's get started with Zakarayah. Let's complete. Well, it's not completed yet. It'll be completed in the next study. Now we have arrived at the millennial reign of Hamashiach, which will occur after the war in Magadan. Although the verses below begin with this event, interwoven into this event of Hamashiach's reign is the actual war and what will take place then and even during his reign. These verses will be reintroduced in Revelation chapter 20, which deals with the millennial reign of Hamashiach, the final war of Gog and Magog, and another phenomenal event at the very end, leading to the renewal of all things. So we will come back and reflect on some of these verses in Zakarayah and even in Yawa'al. Okay? One thing as believers, I forgot to read the verse 9 of Zakarayah chapter 14. And Yahweh shall be Malak over all the earth. In that day shall there be one Yahweh and his name one. One thing as believers in Allah Hayam Yahweh that we will never deny is that he is Malakana, our king, and our ruler and creator overall. He is everything to us. There have never been another deity from the past and even in this present time that have demonstrated their power and might like Yahweh. All gods, speaking of the fallen angels, have to submit to him and obey them and obey him. All the fallen angels still have to obey him. The Nephilim spirits, they have to obey him. They have no power to do otherwise. And what they have done and will continue to do, speaking of these fallen angels, and that is to deceive their wicked minions into believing that they, the fallen angels, possess the ultimate power. How many times have you read when Hamashiach was walking on this earth and the devil saw him coming? What did they say? They pleaded with him. All right. They even knew his name. All right. So the devils are afraid of Alahayam, whether the Son, the Father, or Ruach HaKadosh. They're afraid of them because they know that their power is no match to theirs. Meaning the power of the fallen angels and their minions is no match to Alahayam. Not only does Yahweh have the ultimate and creative power, but his name also possesses that power. How many times that you were in trouble and you call on the name, and then what? The devil's gotta go. All right? They got to flee. The darkness has got to go because there's power in his name. And all you have to do is call on his name and the powers have to go. Whatever is trying to press you down, whatever is trying to bring fear upon your heart, you call on the name and that fear gotta go. I know in the past, not recently, but in the past, there were times that I have been awakened. This is at night, because this usually happens at night, because these devils love darkness. And you feel a presence in your room, an evil presence in your room. And what it is supposed to do is invoke more fear, because the more fear you have, the more power it feeds off that fear. So the more power this evil entity receives. Right? And you know what comes to me? You know what Ruach HaKadosh tells me to do? Call on his name, call on the name of Ha'aba. And the minute you call on his name and you rebuke that evil spirit in his name, in the name of Hamashiach, see, this thing gotta go. It gotta go. It vanishes. Used to happen to me a lot because back in the day, you know, you're a brand new believer and these things popping up because they want to drag you back into the darkness, you know. These things happen. They're real. There are evil spirits around us. There are a lot of people that operate with these spirits. And what they do, they send them to disrupt your life. There are a lot of filthy people out there that will do this. And they will even convince you that they are one of us. But they're involved in witchcraft. All right? So these things happen. They do happen. Don't think that just because your eyes can't see them, that they don't exist. There are a lot of unclean spirits around us, and a lot of them are being commissioned by earthly entities. All right, I will say no more. You call on the name and don't fear, because they feed off your fear. Rebuke them. In the name of Yahweh or Hamashiach. At the sound of his name, they all got to run. They don't like his name at all. So if his name is power, imagine him. They have no chance whatsoever. Let's look at Psalms 47 verse 1. Oh, clap your hands, all you people. Shout unto Allah with the voice of triumph. For Yahweh Ola Yawan, the highest, is terrible. He is great Malak over all the earth. He's a great king over all the earth. He shall subdue the people under us and the nations under our feet. He shall choose our inheritance for us, the excellency of Yaakov, whom he loves. Salah. Allah is gone up with a shout. Yahweh with the sound of a trumpet. Sing praises to Allah and sing praises. Sing praises unto Malakana. Sing praises. For Allah is Malak of all the earth. Sing you praises with understanding. Allah reigns over the heathen. Allah sits upon the throne of his holiness. The princes of the people are gathered together. Even the people of Allah ol Abraham. For the shields of the earth belong unto Allah. He is greatly exalted. That is who we serve, people. That's who we serve. You think these devils, first of all, what they do, these devils on the earth, whether the earthly minions or the spiritual minions, what they do is to prevent you from knowing the truth. Because when you know the truth sets you free. All right? Because they know once you start to walk in the light, it is a hard thing for them to come near you. It's hard. And especially when you gain more knowledge and understanding about Allah. Oh my goodness. Listen, they have no chance. So the race for them is to prevent you from coming out from under them. All right? The race for them is to prevent you from entering into the light, from gaining knowledge, from gaining understanding, for understanding the truth. Because if they can give you another kind of truth, which is all lies, whitewashed lies, then they can keep you under them, keep you submitted and submerged under them. And that's why there's so much deception on the earth. Even now, today, this earth is blanketed with layers upon layers upon layers of deception. Because once you peel one layer off, you're still deceived. You got to keep peeling. Because that's the whole idea behind deception. It's like an onion. He wants to make sure, these devils want to make sure you never come out from under them, that you'll always be in darkness. But thanks be to the Most High that He has sent His Son to help us to come out from under these devils. And He has sent Ruach HaKodesh to help us along the way. Now we have arrived at the millennial reign of Hamashiach, which will occur after the war in Magadan. Oh my goodness. I've read that already. I'm so sorry. I got so caught I thought I switched the slides. I'm so sorry. Okay, let's move on to Psalms 96 verse 3. Declare His glory among the heathen, His wonders among all people. For Yahweh is great and greatly to be praised. He is to be feared above all gods. For all the gods of the nations are idols, but Yahweh made the heavens. So let me tell you something. All right? If you're not worshiping Elohim, Yahweh, you're serving an idol. I don't care what you call it. I don't care what you think about it. You know what? A lot of these foolish Israelites, Hebrew Israelites say, well, we don't really need to know his name. He knows our heart. So you got people that claim that they're awakened to who their true identity, but they're still serving the gods of their slave masters. They're still calling on God and Christ and Jesus and Lord and all these different pagan gods and even Yahweh. Listen, you see those people in our land, those devils, the offspring of Japheth, they call on Yahweh. You think that they're going to call on the true name of our Elohim? And we got our own ignorant brethren doing the same thing that those people in our land is doing. Because they're like, well, they're in our land and they're, however they're worshiping, we want to worship like them because they stole our identity. They did not steal anything from us. All right? They're just as fooled, all right, and deceived as we were. But the problem is they're even more deceived. Because the identity that they have is not our identity. They stole our land. That's what they did. But they did not steal our identity. Our identity was scrubbed. And the identity that they have in the land that they're living that belongs to us was given to them. All right? Even the name Israel is not the name of our land, because it has the name of their gods in it. The gods that they serve is in the name Israel. That's why it ends with El. El is God, Baal, and Ra. If you break down the word Israel, is Ra, God. That's in the name of Israel. So how they worship and who they worship and when they worship is all pagan. And our foolish brethren, they look to them and say, well, they're in our land, so that means, and they've stolen our identity, so that means that everything that they have belongs to us, so we're going to do what they're doing, which is a lie from the pit of hell. Because you've jumped out of Christianity, if you were in Christianity, and into another pagan religion called Judaism. Even if you want to call it Messianic Judaism, then you go to another extreme Hebrew Israelite camp. All of them, all of that, pagan. Don't even look to them. Look, they even have the names of their gods in their months. One of their months is called Tammuz. You know who Tammuz is? A pagan god. They worship on Saturday because their god is the god of Saturn, who is Neptune. And Poseidon. All these things, if you dig beneath the surface, you're going to find the truth. So don't look to them to know how to worship the Creator, Ha'aba. You look to Ruach HaKodesh. And that's why there's so many issues amongst the Hebrew Israelite camps. They're miserable. They're a pack of misery. They're always fighting amongst each other. Everybody want to be top dog. Everybody want to be a leader. You want to go out there and wear the fringes and do this and do that. All for what reason? All right? Stop worshiping these idols. And even some of the leaders have become idols to the people. Oh, you the man. Oh, you're fire. Oh, you're king. Don't call no man king. We're all servants of Allahayam Yahweh, who is our king, as well as Allahayam Hamashiach, who is our king and high priest forever. They're our kings. All right? They're the ones who are ruling over us. Stop calling these Negroes kings and calling the women queen. Look, don't call me queen, eh? Call me servant. Call me messenger, but don't call me queen. All right. Let's get our facts straight. You walking around with your chest pumped out because somebody calling you king? Some of you people, you know what? You don't even understand what you're doing and what you're helping to feed pride in that person. Stop doing it. A lot of our people need to be deflated. They're pumped up like a puffer fish, ready to explode because pride. Nothing annoys me more than when a woman calls a Negro man king. And these stupid men calling, sorry, shouldn't say that, but these foolish men calling the women queen. Don't call the women queen. Call them the daughters of Sayawan, the daughter of Allahayam. We're daughters, and you're the sons, and we're all servants together. That's who we are. Then there's no way for pride to come and pump us up. We need to fight on this earth against pride. And pride is like an eel. It can slip in through the tiniest crack in our armor. And someone start pumping you up and calling you king, trust me, you're going to start walking around like a king. And the Most High is going to turn you like what he did with Nebuchadnezzar, turn you into a beast. Thinking that you are something when you're not. We need to stop this. Yes, you want to encourage one another. Use humility. I don't have a problem with you calling me servant. I don't have a problem with you calling me messenger. Call me daughter. That's why I part of my name is daughter of Sayawan. All right? That's who I am. And I'm a messenger. That's all I am. I'm nothing else. Anyways, all these gods of the nations are idols. And a lot of our people are serving them. And there's only one who made the heavens and the earth and all the things therein. And that's Yahweh. Psalms 89 verse 6. For who is in the heavens can be compared unto Yahweh? Who among the sons of the mighty can be likened unto Yahweh? Allahayam is greatly to be feared in the assembly of the saints, and to be had in reverence of all them that are about him. O Yahweh Allahayam ol Sabaoth. He is the Yahweh Allahayam of hosts. Who are the hosts? The heavenly hosts and the earthly hosts. The heavenly hosts are the angels, the earthly hosts are the 12 tribes of Yashraal. Who is strong? Yahweh is who is a strong Yahweh like unto you, or to your faithfulness round about you. There's no one above him. Everything is beneath him. And by the way, I want to clarify something about the king. Hamashiach is our king. Yahweh is our king. One king. Because the Father is in the Son and the Son is in the Father. There are two people, all right? But there are king. Hamashiach represents the Father. All that he is and all that he says and all that he does, he says and does because of the Father. The Father tells him what to say and what to do. He says that himself. I only do what my Father tells me to do. I do nothing of my own will. So the Father does not mind if we call him king, and Yahweh is our king as well. All right? Because they are one together. And when I say one, I don't mean they're one person with two names. They have the same qualities. All right? And the Father loves the Son, and the Son loves the Father. They're two entities. Three if you count Ruach HaKodesh. All right? So let's not get confused, because we know there's different teachings out there that the Father is the Son and the Son is the Father. No, the Father is in the Son and the Son is in the Father. They're two distinct peoples. But the Father is spirit. So he sends his Son to perform his duties, to perform his will. Before he came, speaking of Hamashiach, before he came on the earth as the servant, he walked the earth as the angel of Yahweh. All right? So let's get that straight. But there are king. All right. The Barayam, the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 6, verse 4. This is our amazing command. Hear, O Yashrael, Yahweh Allah Hayana is one Yahweh, and you shall love Yahweh Allah Hayak with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your might. And I'm going to read that at the ending of this study in our language. I promise to do it in our language, and just like I did the prayer. But I I have so many things on my plate, because I really want to complete the book of Revelation. We're getting close to the end. We have 3 more chapters to go, but before we finish the last 3 chapters, I have to finish chapter 19. Chapter 19 took me by surprise. I didn't think that it was going to explode and expand the way how it is, but it's amazing because I am learning, just like, as you are learning, I'm learning as well. And what I'm trying to say, my words are getting all kind of mumbled there, but I'm learning along as you're learning. All right, but it's an eye opener. That's all I can say. It's an eye opener. We, the believers in Allah Hayam Yahweh, know that He is one and His name is one, meaning that He is first, for there is none before Him. None, never has been, and never will be any other above Him. Before He was, He is, and before He is, He was. So there's never been anyone before Him. He was always, if there was a beginning, He was in the beginning. Okay? Now let's look at verse 10 of Zakarayah chapter 14. All the land shall be turned as a plain from Geba to Rimmon, south of Yerushalayim, and it shall be lifted up and inhabited in her place. From Banaya Mayan's gate unto the corner gate, and that's Benjamin's gate, onto the corner gate, and from the tower of Hananiel onto the king's wine presses. So this verse 10 in Zechariah 14 is giving us the description of how Mount of Olives is going to be spread apart. The description of the cleaved Mount of Olives and how it will be spread apart helps us to understand how the transformation of this mountain is going to occur and its subsequent effect on nearby locations and people. Speaking of the armies that will come to war against Hamashiach and his saints in our land. So they're going to, there's going to be a lot of shaking going on because the mountain is split open, it's spreading apart, and then the valley is going to raise up like a plain. So what do you think is going to happen with the armies that are there to come and war against us? Allah Hayam is going to use all of this to scare them to go into the valley of decision. This is going to prompt them through fear because the earth is going to be shaken. All right? So let me see here. And its subsequent effect on nearby locations and people. Speaking of the armies that will come to war against Hamashiach and his saints in our land. The shift of the cleaved mountain moving upwards towards Banayamayam and southward towards Rimmon. Then the width of it from the corner gate, which is the northeast corner, to Hananeel, which is the then the width of it from the corner gate, which is the northwest corner, to Hananeel, which is the northeast corner. Then the land of that valley will rise up to be like a plain, a plateau, where the tabernacle of Allah Hayam will be established. So he's giving you the locations. It's going to spread northward. Actually, the line, the crack in Mount of Olives is going to spread from east to west. And then the mount is going to spread apart. The top part is going to move northward. The bottom part is going to move southward. And then it's going to be a tremendous valley. And that land in the valley is going to be raised up to be flush with the two parts that have moved apart to create a plateau. And that's where Allah Hayam Yahweh is going to set down his tabernacle. All right? He's going to set down his tabernacle. And Hamashiach will be able then to enter in through the east gate of the tabernacle. All right? And this mountain now, that was once the Mount of Olives, will be Mount Sayawan. This new mountain will be called Sayawan, located in the newly transformed Yarowashalam, located in the province of Yahawada. Because Yarowashalam is going to be a little bit changed too. Even the prophet Jeremiah told us of this transformation that will be coming. So let's look at Jeremiah. I'm telling you, the prophecies are there. All right? It is there. The information is there within the prophecies. Jeremiah chapter 31, verse 38. Behold, the days come, said Yahweh, that the city shall be built to Yahweh from the tower of Hananeel, which is the northeast corner, unto the gate of the corner, which is the northwest. And the measuring line shall yet go forth over against it upon the hill Gareb, and shall compass about to Goath. And the whole valley of the dead bodies and of the ashes and all the fields unto the brook of Kidron, unto the corner of the horse gate towards the east, shall be holy unto Yahweh. It shall not be plucked up nor thrown down any more forever. So he has given us the expanse, the measurement of how big this area is going to be that will house or will be the site for his tabernacle. Like I said, I visited Israel. I will call it that. I visited twice, spent quite a lot of time there. Been to Jerusalem. I will call it that. And I actually visited the Mount of Olives because I knew about this prophecy, right? Before I knew about actually all this, but you've heard the talk amongst the Christian community about the Mount of Olives. I went to the Mount of Olives and it looks nothing like anything. I'm telling you, it is. I was shocked. I was so shocked when I saw what it looked like. It right there in the Mount of Olives, we have a lot of um, Arabs. All right, we have a lot of Arabs up there, and lots of shops. It's unkept. It's not clean at all. Right? I was like, no wonder he's going to split this mountain because of the heathens living there, and how they have, the land is just, it just, oh, I don't know, it was just a shock because you think, when you think of the Mount of Olives, I personally was hoping to see a lot of olive trees. It's a little mountain with olive trees, but no, it's actually like a little city with lots of shops and people, and oh my goodness, I was just like, okay, let me get out of here because it's not what I was expecting. So I came down, and I happened to come down the correct street because I came across this immense grave site. Is the graveyard, all right, with lots of tombstones and stuff, right? Huge area, and it's facing what would have been the temple. That would not be the original temple, of course, but it was facing what was left of the last temple. And I believe the the gate that is facing the burial site there on Mount of Olives, because this is where it is, by the Mount of Olives, is the Golden Gate. And it's sealed. It's permanent. It's permanently sealed. It was sealed by, I believe, there were um, Arabs or Muslims or whoever. They sealed it because they were trying to prevent the, the prophecy of Hamashiach coming through the East Gate, right? Anyways, I'll talk more about that in part 7, about the Golden Gate. All right. So I came across um, the tombs, and apparently it is very expensive because to bury someone there, because the people buried there. I'm telling you, these people, the people buried there, they are hoping that when the Messiah comes, these are the Jewish people, all right. When the Messiah comes, they'll be the first to rise up, right? So that's why that plot there is very expensive. If you want to be buried there, it's very expensive because they know about this prophecy in Zakarayah. Now, I was also fortunate to discover, and it was just a little hidey hole. It was a doorway. Me and my friend, we were just exploring it, and I just wanted to see everything, right? And there was this one doorway, and you go through the doorway and led you into, and I believe it is before you got to the graveyard. Yes, I think it's before you got to the graveyard. And that's why when I read this verse here about verse 40, the whole valley of the dead bodies, because that's lower down on Mount of Olives. All right. Because here what Jeremiah is describing is around the area of Mount of Olives, and how that entire area is going to be transformed to be the site for the new tabernacle. All right. The city and the site of the new tabernacle. So, yeah, so me and my friend, we went through this mysterious arch, right? It was just a little arch with a little door that was open. There was no one around. It was just her and I. We walked through, and we were delightfully surprised to find that it was the burial site for Malachi and Zakarayah. That's where they were buried. right? Not that it was anything phenomenal because it's the dead, right? But to see that these are prophets in the Bible that we read about, and to see that they had a burial site for them, and the burial site was inside this tomb. It was a tomb. You had to go in. There are no bones in there anymore. It's all empty. But they have, and we don't know if it's correct anyway, right? These people do things there in that land and tell you this is the site of this place because um, you pay money and you go to see the site, just like um, we went to the Garden of Gethsemane, right? And there's a big church in there. Anyway, so let me finish this story because I'm all over the place. So we don't know for sure if this is the burial site of Zachariah, but it was noted that it was the burial site of Zachariah, and but there are no bones. There's nothing. It's just an empty site. But this is what the people in the land, the religious ones, they say that this is where these prophets were buried. So you go in, it's all dark, you need a candle, and you have these little holes in the walls where they put the body, they put the bones in there, right? But there are no bones inside these little pockets anymore. Who knows what happened to them, right? But you have the names on top. No, was it a name or a number? I can't remember what it was. But um but this is the only site you didn't have to pay to go in, or to view, and it's not really popular. Like, I don't think a lot of people know about it, because we only happened upon it because me being who I am, every little nook and cranny I wanted to explore. And I saw this and I said, "What's this?" And she's like, "I don't know." And we decided to go in. I said, "Well, if anything, people just tell us to go back out." Right? So we happened to find the burial site for these two prophets. And I think there were other prophets too, but I can't remember. But I'm saying all of that to tell you that all of that is speaking about the valley of the dead bodies and of the ashes, right? And we even saw um, in the Kidron Valley, I believe it's called the Kidron Valley, if I'm not mistaken, where you have the um, tomb of David, Dawad's son. Name's gone out of my head. The one that um, caused him to run away from his from his throne. Absalom, yes, that's the name. Absalom. We saw the tomb of Absalom, but that is sealed. Anyways, so these things are actually there, right? And even what is called the Golden Gate, but I don't know. The Most High, like all that area in Jerusalem, is going to be transformed. That's why I said that Yerushalayim, the Jerusalem that is there, is going to be changed to be Yerushalayim, because all these different things will be transformed. All these places are going to be transformed because he's going to establish his Mount Sion there. All that is going to be removed, and all those ruins and stuff that are already there. Well, they're going to be previous earthquakes anyway, and the land is going to be transformed before the northern kingdom comes in. There will be no one in the land when they come in. The land is going to revert to what it was before, to be like the Garden of Odan, and he's going to have homes and everything there for his people, and they're going to come and just occupy, right? So when he comes this second time, all those dead bodies and everything, he's just going to, all those bones and whatnot, it's just going to be gone. right? Because remember, he's moving things apart and things are just going to be gone, right? And that entire area is going to be Mount Siawan with um, with his tabernacle there. So let me finish reading this first. Onto the corner of the horse gate towards the east. So this is and all the fields onto the brook of Kedron, onto the corner of the horse gate toward the east shall be holy unto Yahweh, and it shall not be plucked up nor thrown down any more forever. So this is his city. This is his tabernacle. It's not going to be ever thrown down or plucked up ever forevermore. It will. This is it. This is the final time that his tabernacle will be established in Yerushalayim until the new Yerushalayim comes. All right. We see that the prophecies of Jeremiah and Zakarayah are a confirmation of the restructuring of the Mount of Olives into the new mountain called Siawan, where the tabernacle for Allahayam Yahweh will be established. The names of the gates and hills all give geographical locations as to the width and length of this plain or plateau will be. Kedron is located in the northeast corner. Garib is located in the southwest. Goath is in the southeast, and this will be the final time that his tabernacle will be planted on the earth, and this time it will be by the hand of Allahayam, and no human hands will be involved. So we see the locations here by Jeremiah, and they all go hand in hand with what Zachariah says in his or said in his prophecy. So let's look at Zechariah chapter 2, verse 4. And said unto him, Run, speak to this young man, saying, Yerushalayim shall be inhabited as towns without walls, for the multitude of men and cattle therein. Speaking of our people. For I said, Yahweh will be unto her a wall of fire round about, and will be the glory in the midst of her. Sing and rejoice, O daughter of Siawan, for lo I come, and I will dwell in the midst of you, said Yahweh. And many nations shall be joined to Yahweh in that and many nations shall be joined to Yahweh in that day, and shall be my people, and I will dwell in the midst of you. And you shall know that Yahweh O Sabaoth have sent me unto you. And Yahweh shall inherit Yahweh, his portion in the Holy Land, and shall choose Yerushalayim again. Be silent, all flesh before Yahweh, for he is raised up out of his holy habitation. So Yahweh is the province in which Yerushalayim has always been and will always be. All right. And we know the nations that are joined to him in that day will be the 12 tribes of Yashwa'al, and later on, a few of the Gentile nations. Okay? So the many nations will be comprised of everyone. And men shall dwell in it. This is verse 11 of Zechariah chapter 14. And men shall dwell in it, and there shall be no more utter destruction, but Yerushalayim shall be safely inhabited. So we see here it is already confirmed by an earlier prophecy of Zechariah here in chapter 2. All right. When he says, Yerushalayim shall be inhabited as towns without walls for the multitude of men and cattle therein. And verse 5 of Zechariah chapter 2, For I said, Yahweh will be unto her a wall of fire round about. That's his glory that will surround his city. No one is allowed in his city. No more Canaanites, No more Gentiles will trod in his city, Yarawashalam. We're going to see that. You're going to see that. We're going to come to that again. So there's a wall of fire round about, and will be the glory in the midst of her. So it's going to be safely inhabited. Over the generations, Yarawashalam was destroyed, our temple destroyed, and our people destroyed. Time and time again, this occurred because of the disobedience of our forefathers. Now, for the final time, Yarawashalam will be inhabited by the 12 tribes of Yashraal, and none will make them afraid. Alahayam will be dwelling with us in our midst, and he will be our wall of fire of protection. We will forever be dwelling in his glory, hence the darkness and our enemies will not be able to destroy us or our land anymore. Yet, Alahayam will draw these devils into our land to destroy them there. But they're not coming in Yarawashalam. They're coming for the war of Armageddon. They're going to come near Yarawashalam. And for the war of Gog and Magog, they're coming into the mountains of Yashraal. Let's look at Ezekiel chapter 38, verse 8. After many days you shall be visited. In the latter years you shall come into the land that is brought back from the sword, which is gathered out of many people against the mountains of Yashraal, which have been always waste, but is brought forth out of the nations, and they shall dwell safely, all of them. So when we look at this in chapter 20, of Revelation, of the book of Revelation, we're going to come back to this chapter, Ezekiel chapter 38, which is speaking of the Gog and Magog war. This is speaking of when the northern kingdom enters into our land for the final time. They is speaking here of the northern kingdom. They shall dwell safely, all of them. And eventually when when the southern kingdom returns to Yashraal, the land of Yashraal, they too will dwell safely. All right. In the latter years is an expression speaking of the last days or the end times. Allah Hayam made a promise to our forefathers that in the last days, in the end times, that they will return to our land and to true worship in our land. Yarawashalam is our city, our center for worship, where Mount Sayawan will be located. Although this particular scripture was dealing with the return of the northern kingdom to our land, it is also relevant to the southern kingdom, who will return with Hamashiach to live in our land. We're all coming back. We're only taken off the earth because our time of sifting, our time of judgments have been completed. Now, Al-Hayam wants to turn his attention to the northern kingdom. All right? So he's going to deal with us as two separate kingdoms. And then after he's finished dealing with the northern kingdom, then he's going to turn his attention to the inhabitants on the earth, the Gentile nations. All right? We'll be looking at the scripture once again in detail as it gives much insight as to the Gog and Magog war in Revelation chapter 20. So let's look at verses 12 and 13 of Zakarayah chapter 14. And this shall be the plague wherewith Yahweh will smite all the people that have fought against Yarawashalam. Their flesh shall consume away while they stand upon their feet, and their eyes shall consume away in their holes, and their tongue shall consume away in their mouth. And it shall come to pass in that day that a great tumult from Yahweh shall be among them, and they shall lay hold every one on the hand of his neighbor, and his hand shall rise up against the hand of his neighbor. Now, I've heard many people, when they read this scripture, especially verse 12, they call it nuclear war. nuclear weapons that were used to cause people to melt upon, upon their feet. Their flesh melted away, their eyes and their tongue, consumed away. And they said it was because of nuclear war that caused this. I'm like, seriously. People, you can take a verse out of the Bible to make it fit your narrative if you really want it to, right? But if you want this verse in its context, it does not fit. First of all, there's no such thing as nuclear weapons. There's no nuclear war, no nuclear weapons, because if they had it, they would have used it a long time ago. All right? They've been threatening to use nuclear weapons, and they haven't used it. Don't worry about the footage that you see them testing out these so-called nuclear bombs or what have you. Don't worry about that. I've said this before. There are people that have debunked those videos. They're all lies, just like the moon landing. It's all a lie. It's all Hollywood production. You need to wake up. Why do you think they keep threatening and never do it? All right. This here, verse 12, is the result of Hamashiach's sword in his mouth. The power that comes from his lips. He's going to speak a word and cause them to melt where they stand. That's all it is. But people cannot conceive that. If you're a heathen and you have a secular mind, if you're one of the brethren, you have a secular mind, you cannot conceive this. You cannot conceive that with a word from Hamashiach's mouth that he can cause people to melt where they stand. Not only them, but their animals too. People can't conceive this. Okay, let's read what is written here. We know that Jerusalem has always been the city of Allah-Hayam and where his tabernacle dwelt when our forefathers lived in our land, Yashraal. It has always been the center for worship in the past and will be again in the future forever. Therefore, Jerusalem is symbolic for the worship of Allah-Hayam, all that it represents, like righteousness, holiness, faithfulness, obedience, or obeying all of his commandments, statutes, laws, and judgments. When we see that Allah-Hayam is going to smite all those who came against Jerusalem, he was not only speaking about the many people who were slaughtered there while they were worshiping him, but also the city with its tabernacle in its midst and the worship aspect of Jerusalem. So let me pause here for a second. There were many times that our tabernacle, our temple was destroyed. But besides the tabernacle being destroyed, the people were destroyed. And besides the people that were destroyed, the worship was destroyed. So you understand what Jerusalem means to our people? It was the dwelling place of Allah-Hayam amongst his people. It also represents our worship to Allah-Hayam. And him being our Allah-Hayam and we being his people. This was the meeting place for Allah-Hayam and his people. So Jerusalem meant a lot to our forefathers. Doesn't mean anything to us today because we have never worshipped in Jerusalem. Not yet, but it's coming back. So when he talks about all those that came against Jerusalem, it wasn't merely about our people that were slaughtered there, but the destruction of the temple and the destruction of our worship. And we can pinpoint that even to us today because our worship was destroyed. We were given the worship of our forefathers, the idols of our forefathers to worship. Therefore, we had to put aside the worship of Allah-Hayam. Our forefathers did that, not us. He brought it back to us. So this is the reason why Al-Hayam spoke through the prophet to say, all them that fought against Yeruashalaim. This wasn't just a one-time thing. This was an ongoing thing throughout the generations. And even when we were not in our own land, because we were forced to worship pagan gods. So that is an abomination that was coming or fighting against Yeruashalaim. All right, let's read on. Our righteous forefathers wept when they saw the destruction of Yeruashalaim because of what it meant to them and what it ought to mean to us. Our generation today cannot conceive the strong attachment and love that our forefathers had for our city, Yeruashalaim, and for our tabernacle in the said city. Baruch wept. Ezra, Ozariah wept. Jeremiah wept. All the prophets that we know of, they wept when they saw the destruction of Yeruashalaim. Why? And they were the righteous ones. I'm not talking about the heathen ones, because we had a lot of heathen people, our people, amongst us. And that's the reason why Yeruashalaim was destroyed, because of pagan religion, pagan worship by our forefathers. But the righteous ones, you see, Peter paid for Paul and Paul paid for all. And this was the unfortunate thing that happened. But it happened. But Al-Hayam had a plan. All right? He had a plan. And so the righteous ones wept when they saw the destruction of our city. All right? And you know when we are going to be able to conceive this? When we see our city again. But we can't conceive what they felt then, because we've always been a people that were in exile. We're living in exile. And that's why the Father, Ha'abba, is saying it's time to come home. I have exiled you long enough. And that's why He is opening the books and revealing the truth, so that we all have an opportunity to repent and return to Him and be obedient to Him, because it is time to come home. Al-Hayam, Yahweh will send His son Hamashiach to execute His judgments on these heathens in the valley of decision. His judgment, singular. The war of Armageddon. The word plague in our language is magapa, which means to strike, to slaughter, pestilence as a divine judgment. This judgment in the valley of decision will be a slaughter that will occur in two ways. One, the sword in Hamashiach's mouth will cause these creatures to melt where they stand, while at the same time they will turn on each other, creating a great tumult, confusion, and turmoil amongst them. Al-Hayam has done this before. He has caused our enemies to turn on themselves. And He will do it here in this war. He's going to do it also too in Gog and Magog war. Contrary to popular belief, the melting of these creatures will not be nuclear weaponry, as all technology have been destroyed for some time now. All technology was destroyed since seal number 6. So how could it be nuclear war if there was such a thing as nuclear weapons? This melting will be the power of Hamashiach issuing from his mouth like a sharp, two-edged sword. Alahayam have always used the nations against themselves to destroy each other. He had done it in the past, and he will continue to do so until the last war is won by him. He is the winner, you know. He is going to win every single war, every single thing that is going to happen. He's coming out as the winner. And anyone that serves him and worships him will win along with him. That's why, come on, guys, get your house in order. Don't worry about the things of this earth. All these things on this earth have been placed here to distract us, to keep us all busy with life, and life is passing us by. The true life is passing us by. We need to wake up. I'm saying this over and over again. Our people are so consumed with life on this earth. We need to be consumed with life with Him. Forget about life on this earth. It's done. Watch all these videos and you'll see it for yourself. Go to the scriptures and read it for yourself. The end is near. Hamashiach, when he was on the earth, he spoke about it. His apostles spoke about it. His prophets spoke about it. And we're still here trying to figure out, okay, what are we going to cook for dinner tomorrow? Or, okay, yeah, I need to get a job or get a promotion or what have you. And not concern ourselves with the reality that judgment is coming. In fact, we are already being judged. But we're not heeding to the signs. We're not heeding to the signs. He is going to win in the end. And those that serve him, they are going to win right along with him and inherit an eternal life with him. And the opposite of that is eternal damnation away from him. And after living in such misery here on the earth, even though we try to eke out a life, the lake of fire and eternal damnation is nothing like what, okay, you could have the worst day on this earth, right? Think about your worst day on this earth. Is nothing compared to living in the lake of fire. Nothing compare. Anyways, let me just move on. Revelation chapter 19, verse 15. We looked at this early on. And out of his mouth goes a sharp sword, that with it he should smite the nations, and he shall rule them with a rod of iron, and he treads the winepress of the fierceness and wrath of Shaddai Alahayam. And this is Hamashiach in his glorious form, coming as king, riding on the white horse, and out of his mouth will be a sharp two-edged sword. It is not a literal sword, but it is the word, the power of his words that will come from his lips that will look like a sharp two-edged sword. In fact, not even look like, but it will act as a sharp two-edged sword. It will cut them down. It will slaughter them. Yawahanan was seeing prophetic imagery. But you're not literally going to see like a laser light beam coming from his mouth. No. But he's going to speak a word. And that word is going to slaughter them where they stand. And at the same time, they're going to turn on each other. So while they're dying, they're slaughtering each other. Great confusion amongst them. They have their swords raised to come against us, against him and his saints. They're going to turn around on each other. And then they'll melt in at the same time. Okay, Zechariah chapter 14, verse 14. And Yahweh also shall fight at Jerusalem, and the wealth of all the heathen round about shall be gathered together, gold and silver and apparel in great abundance. Now, this confirms that the southern kingdom, which is identified as Yahweh, will also be involved in this war along with the northern kingdom, who are already dwelling in our land, Yasha'al, at this time. This is allowing us to see that the southern kingdom will return with Hamashiach to the earth. That's why, let me read on. To settle on the earth in our land. So we have to look at some verses as confirmation of things that we already know. So we know Yahweh, they too will also fight at Jerusalem. What is happening at Jerusalem? The war of Magadan. So this is confirming the fact that Yahweh, the southern kingdom, will be fighting right along with the northern kingdom. Okay? It's not only Yahweh that will be fighting. It will be the 12 tribes fighting in the province of Yahweh, all right, against these kings in this war. The kings and their armies. The fight at Jerusalem is the valley of decision, the war of Armageddon, which these heathens will come with their beasts and set up their camps in order to be prepared for the war. Remember that this will not be a quick journey into our land, therefore they will need to set up their camps for the occasional rest, to regroup, to plan their evil strategy. So they're coming with a lot of stuff. They're coming with their beast of burden, laden with things. Why? Because Elohim, Yahweh, has put it in their minds to pack up the silver, the gold, and the great apparel, their apparel in great abundance. He's put it in their hearts to do this. And we'll see why in a minute. We'll see why. Why would they come with silver and gold and apparel? Apparel means clothing. Why would they come with all these things? They're coming to war, right? And they're coming with silver and gold and apparel. Why would they come? I can see why they come with food and other camping gear and stuff. But why the silver and the gold? Because Elohim has put it in their hearts to bring it. Let's read on. These devils and creatures will bring along their gold, silver, and apparel in great abundance, which will be gathered by the 12 tribes after the bloodbath of these creatures. Just like in the days of our forefathers when they left Goshen, and Yehoshaphat, and Gadaowan, who is Gideon, to name a number of times when Elohim caused his people to reap the wealth of their enemies that he had destroyed. So we know when our forefathers left Goshen, the Most High put it in the hearts of the Egyptians when he sent the 12 tribes to go and knock on these Egyptian doors, that they handed them their silver, their gold, their jewels, and everything that they had. Right? Yehoshaphat was the same thing. They didn't have to fight anything. The people turned on themselves. And they were able to go in and reap the booty. They were able to gather a lot of wealth from all these people that were gathered. And the same thing with Gideon. All right? Now, there's a reason why these things happened. When our forefathers were in Goshen and they worked for the Egyptians, they refused to pay them. They refused to pay them. And on top of that, they tormented them. All right? What do you think is happening to us today? Right? Not being able to live in our land, they've stolen from us. They had us work as slaves. All right? They had our forefathers work as slaves. Didn't pay them anything, give them the entrails of the pig to eat. What they didn't want, they give us as which was the garbage they give our forefathers to eat, which also were abomination, unclean things to eat. They didn't have a choice, either not eat or starve. But that's their mindset. Anyways. So there's a lot of reparation that is due to us. So let's read on. This will be the doing of Alahayam, causing them to bring all their wealth with them in this war. This will be the gold, silver, and precious items that they have stolen from us and our forefathers throughout the ages, and they had withheld from us throughout our generations while being enslaved. Now listen, even when we were working, say a 9-to-5 job, they stole from us. They call it taxes. All right? They stole from us. You work hard, you get little pay, and they take a portion of that pay and call it taxes. All right? In other words, these will be our reparations. So the silver and gold and the apparel in great abundance that these armies are going to bring along with them will be our reparations. Now you see why we're not supposed to be lusting after reparations right now? No, we're not supposed to be. Alahayam already knows what is due to us, and in the end we will get it all and much, 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 much more. The wealth is coming to us. The wealth of the Gentiles is coming to us. We don't need to go after them to get it. They're literally going to come and plant it at our feet. First, we're going to collect this batch, this great abundance from the armies. And then the other Gentiles, they're going to come and lay it at our feet. All right? The good news is we will not have to beg for it like some of our brethren are doing today, making petitions and the like. Yeah, we making petitions and going to the government and say you owe us this and you owe us that. And the government's like, okay, you know what? We're going to give you reparations, but you're going to have to sign on the dotted line and you're going to have to take the tax on in order to keep it. All right? They're going to have a lot of strings attached to that reparation. You watch and see. All you foolish people going after reparations now is because you're lusting after money. I said it. You're lustful. What reparations? You want their blood money? No. This gold and silver and apparel that they're bringing is going to be clean stuff. You don't want their filthy lucre right now. It's going to have a lot of strings attached anyway. Our minds need to be set on one thing, to be regathered by Hamashiach. That's all we need to do. And make sure that we're found worthy. All this talk about reparations, all these people making up songs and singing and dancing and laughing and say, yeah, ha, 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 you know, driving me crazy. And people just joining in with them and they're going after reparation. You go put your name on a list. They're going to mark you. You watch and see. They're going to mark you. You're going to know who you are and where you come from. Because they're going to ask you to put down your name, your address, everything, all your personal information. If you want reparation, you got to give us your personal information. And they're going to track you. And then, anyways. That's what greed and lust is going to do with a lot of people. Cause us to be singled out, then to be destroyed by these same people. You go after reparations. You go after it. All right? The smart ones will not go after reparations. They're going to wait. All good things comes to those who wait. Or all good things come to those who wait. They that wait upon Yahweh shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like an eagle. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. But that's who, those are the people that wait upon him. You wait upon him for reparations from these heathens. Yes, they have to pay us back. But we don't want blood money. And we don't want mammon to cause us to go after these things, because that's what is causing us to go after these things. Mammon. You get rid of the mammon, you wouldn't care anything about these things. You just want Allah Hayam. That's all you will ever want is him. And he will come and put all these things upon you. What happened to Solomon? Yahweh came to Solomon and said to him, ask of me whatever you want and I will give it to you. What did Solomon ask for? This was when he was smarter. Back in the day when he was smart. All right. He said, make me wise enough so that I can judge your people in wisdom, with good wisdom. Now I'm paraphrasing. And you know what Yahweh said to him? He said to him, because you did not ask for wealth and long life, not only am I going to make you the wisest man that ever lived, but I'm also going to make you the richest man that ever lived. And did those words fall empty from Yahweh's mouth? No, because everything that comes from his lips does not return to him void, but it must be accomplished as he spoke it. And so Solomon became the wisest man that ever lived and the richest man that ever lived. That's why we ask for the things that pleases him. And what pleases him? We want to be like you then. We want to be like you. We want to have wisdom like you have wisdom. We want to have knowledge that you have. We want truth. We want to be holy like you. We want to be righteous like you. Those are the things that we want. And everything else is just, they call it like the cherry on top of the cake. All right? Everything else is just the cherry on top of the cake. All right, let's move on. So we don't need to go after reparations today. In this day and age, you should be trying to get out of here. Trying to make sure that you don't see the wrath of Allah. That's what you need to be doing. You think reparations can save you from his wrath? You think when those people give you money from one hand, they can't take it back with the other hand? Huh? You don't know what these devils are up to. You don't know what these devils are all about. Stop going after money. And stop begging. All we have to do is to hang tight and the reparations will come and overwhelm us. That's what he said. Did he not say in Deuteronomy 28, verse 1 to 14? Did he not say that all the things that as long as we worship him, that his goodness, now I'm just making it concise here, all right? All his goodness is going to come and overwhelm us. Prosperity, everything, good health, everything is going to come and overwhelm us. Did he not say that? Deuteronomy 28. But if we don't obey him, all the curses are going to fall on us. All right. Zakarayah chapter 61 verse 5. And strangers shall stand and feed your flocks, and the sons of the alien shall be your plowmen and your vine dressers. And you shall be named priests of Yahweh. Men shall call you the ministers of Allah, our Allah. You shall eat the riches of the Gentiles, and in their glory shall you boast. We're going to be walking around looking like princes. You're going to be adorned. Why? Because we're going to be the rulers on the earth. You think we're going to be walking around feeding our flocks? This is the reason why he is going to reserve or preserve the Gentile nations. They're going to come and serve us. They're going to be the ones looking after our flocks. They're going to be the ones looking after our vineyards and our orchards. You think that kind of work we're ever going to do again? Well, if you feel like it, if you feel like walking through your vineyard and picking a bunch of grapes, maybe, you can do that. But you think day to day, well, there's no day at this point in time, but from moment to moment, you think you are going to be, or we are going to be, doing manual labor? No, sir. We're going to be priests and ministers of Allah Hayana. And yet, the Gentiles that will be serving us will be treated like royalty compared to how they treated us. They're not going to be missing out on anything. They will gladly do this work for us. Because the Father sifted them and sifted them and sifted them and sifted them until they came to the realization that the only way that we are going to survive is if we put away this foolish thought of ours that we are something when we are not. And it's going to be many generations later. That's why the Father is going to give them 1,000 years to multiply as well. To weed out of them this haughty spirit that they have about themselves because of their skin color and their hair type and their eye color, that they're superior to us. So many generations later, he said generations about 100 years. So how many generations later? By this time, that last generation should figure it out. Because all along the way, that's what they've been doing, serving us. Serving us. The tables are going to turn, folks. We will no longer be the minority and the servants and slaves of these people. No, we're not. Tables are about to turn. We just need to hang in there and wait it out. Let things be as they are. Let them be. You got to go to work. You got to do certain things. Make sure you don't compromise yourself with Allah. If the job is causing you to compromise yourself, quit it. There's always another job that you can do. Don't compromise yourself for a job or for a salary. All right? This is what's coming for us. This is what's coming for us. The riches of the Gentiles. They're going to be working for us and we're going to be enjoying what they have done for us. All right? Verse 7, for your shame you shall have double. All the shame that they've put us through, making us think that being a Negro is like the equivalent of being a dog. Right? They treated us worse than dogs, actually. So we're going to have double. Remember I told you, everything that's coming for this generation, the redeemed, righteous of Al-Hayam, we're going to get double. Double the light, double everything. Everything's going to be doubled. And for your confusion, they shall rejoice in their portion. Therefore, in their land, they shall possess the double. Talking about us, the 12 tribes. We're going to possess the double. Everlasting joy shall be unto them. No more sorrows, no more tears, no more fears. No more whippings. No more put downs. When they look at us, they're going to have to bow before us. Why? Because we're going to be like royalty to them. And yet we will treat them like royalty. All right? You're going to treat them well. Very well, too. We have discussed before in other studies that the inheritance due to the redeemed 12 tribes of Yashraal will be doubled that of what our forefathers had. Starting with Adam and Hawa, the light that they had before they lost it in the Garden of Eden will be returned to their righteous descendants and them too. Along with this light that will be restored to the redeemed of Yashraal will be added additional glory. The light that once belonged to the anointed cherub called Lucifer or Gadriel. We talked about that before. The land that was once divided up amongst our forefathers will also be increased as our numbers will also greatly increase that of what we were. Even today, our numbers are going to greatly increase in the last days. And during those 1,000 years, once those 1,000 years are up, there's no more multiplying. But during the 1,000 year reign, and even before that, we're always multiplying, right? We will no longer be the minority on the earth, but the majority. And all other Gentile nations, although now sharing a portion of our inheritance, will always be the minority forever. Did you know that? Do you know the Gentiles now will always be the minority? They're going to be the 1% and we're going to be the 99%. I'm just using that as an example. All right? They could be the 10% and we could be the 90%, but we'll always be greater than them. Substantially so too. So I like the 1% versus the 99%. Jeremiah chapter 30 verse 19. And out of them all proceed thanksgiving and the voice of them that make merry, and I will multiply them, and they shall not be few. So multiply here means rabba, means become numerous. And the word few here means they will not be diminished. I will also glorify them, and they shall not be small, meaning Saor, grow insignificant or be insignificant. So not only are we going to be great in number, but we're going to be great in might. We're going to be great in position. We're going to be the priests and ministers of Allah Hayana. We're also going to be his royal priesthood, his special treasure. All right? We're going to have royalty bestowed upon us. How have we been as a people on this earth thus far? Right? We are called a minority because even though we might be in the millions, maybe even a billion of Yashraal, all 12 tribes, the northern and the southern kingdom, if you put the numbers together, we might even be a billion. I'm being generous. There are about 8 billion people. There's still 7 billion of the Gentile nations. So we are still a minority. I'm just using this as an example. All right. So even if we were 1 billion strong compared to the Gentiles, we are still the minority today. And on top of the fact that we are a minority, they call us insignificant because we're treated like servants and slaves. It doesn't matter how many degrees you have. You walk into a job interview and you got a white man with less than what you have, he's going to get the job. Guaranteed. He's going to get the job. All right? So it doesn't matter But this is how the devils have um, laid out their plans from the very beginning to ostracize us, to keep us down as a people, because they know who we are. They know that we belong to Allah, Yahweh. And his power, once we serve him, his power flows through us. And we become the light in this world, and they have to diminish. So the best plan for them was to keep us down. And not only keep us down, but keep us in the dark. And they've done a wonderful job thus far. But now we have slipped out from under them. And now there are some of us, a remnant of us, that are walking in the light. A small number. It's amazing that only a small number of all these people that are supposed to be our people will want to serve Allah in the way and manner that he wants us to serve him. Only a small number. I don't get it. I mean, I understand that he did say and he did prophesy that only a remnant will be delivered. But in my natural thinking, I'm like, come on. Like, how many times do you have to see the destruction of our people? How they curse us? And you still want to live amongst them? You still want to serve them? You still want to marry their children? My goodness. What will it take for these people to wake up? Well, obviously, they're not going to wake up. They're going to sleep all the way to the lake of fire. This is the problem. If I do it, let me show you something, right? And I've looked at many channels on YouTube. You know who gets the biggest hits on YouTube? People that had a dream and they start to prophesy. If you use the words, I had a dream, or I have a prophecy from the Lord, you will see how like in the tens of thousands. All right? Tens of thousands coming to see what that vision is, what that dream is, and what that prophetic word is. They got a lot of people on the internet that calls themselves prophets, and they're giving out false prophecies. Or they're taking something that happened yesterday and they're calling it a prophecy. What have you? And there are many people flocking. No, I'm not complaining. I'm just sharing a reality. I'm showing something that is happening as we speak, as I'm speaking. What people are drawn to are lies. But the minute you start speaking the truth, they don't really want anything to do with you. And like I said, go back to the scriptures. You're going to see that happening even with Hamashiach. Many people could not handle his truth. And so they walked away from him, with the exception of the 12. They liked it when he was doing the miracles because they were entertained. They liked it when he was giving them bread and fish because their empty bellies were being fed. But when it came to the truth now, they couldn't handle it. So they walked away. And this is how it is with our people today. They like being entertained. So if I had a lot of flashing pictures and a lot of music and all this garbage, oh yeah, you know. But I made it this way on purpose. And I said, Heavenly Father, you lead the right people to this channel. You lead your people that want to know the truth to this channel. I am not here to entertain people. I'm not going to join with those out there that are into to entertaining your senses, because this is not what all of this is all about. This is not what it's all about. It's about the truth. That's what it's all about. And the truth is what sets us free. That's what it's all about. And if your senses are so busy being entertained, how are you going to get set free? How are you going to be set free? How is the truth going to penetrate? All right? This is who we are, and this is what's coming for us. We're not going to be insignificant anymore. No more will we be called a minority or an insignificant people. No more slaves or servants, but priests and ministers of Allahayam. Allahayana. Ezekiel chapter 37, verse 26. Moreover, I will make a covenant of peace with them. Who is he speaking of? Now, this was pertaining to the northern kingdom, because this is about the valley of dry bones that came together. This is speaking of the northern kingdom. But everything written down in our manual is for all 12 tribes, even though this is directed to the northern kingdom. It shall be an everlasting covenant with them, and I will place them and multiply them, and will set my sanctuary in the midst of them forevermore. My tabernacle also shall be with them. Yea, I will be their Allahayam, and they shall be my people. That is covenant speech. Verse 28, and the heathen shall know that I, Yahweh, do sanctify Yashraal, when my sanctuary shall be in the midst of them forevermore. The Gentiles are going to see that we're going to be a favored people. Don't worry, it's going to happen soon. They're going to see that we belong to Him. All right? We were once a people afflicted greatly because of our disobedience. Now a generation has arisen that will choose to put away the pagan worship of their forefathers and return to Allahayam with all their heart. It is the purpose of these prophecies to enlighten us to the truth, to lead us back to Allahayam to worship Him. The prophecies are our roadmap to see what is in store for us, whether good or bad. And now the ball is in our court to choose who or whom we will worship and obey. The ball is in our court. All right? So that's the ending of part 5. And stay tuned for part 6, the conclusion of Zakarayah chapter 14. And before we conclude, before we end this study, actually we have ended this study, but let's finish with the blessing for Yashraal, Zakarayah chapter 6, verse 24 to 26. That's Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 24 to 26. Yabarakak Yahweh wa Yashamarak. May Yahweh bless you and keep you. Ya'ar Yahweh panayo alayak wa yachanak. May Yahweh cause His face to shine upon you and have favor upon you. Yasha'a Yahweh panayo alayak wa yasham lak shalawam. May Yahweh lift up His face upon you and give you peace. And I also want to add the command of Allahayam to His people that we ought to be saying every day. And that's from Zakarayah chapter 6, verse 4 and 5. That's Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 4 and 5. Shama'o Yashwa'al Yahweh Allahaya Na Yahweh Ahad Wa Ahabath Ath Yahweh Allahayak Bakal Babak Wabakal Napashat Wabakal Ma'adak. And it says, Hear, O Yashwa'al Yahweh, Alahaya. No, our Alahayam is one Yahweh. And you shall love Yahweh, your Alahayam, with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your might. That's what we ought to be doing every day and throughout the day. And with that, I will say, Shalom, Shalom. All praises to the Most High. Abba Yah.